On Viewpoint, we analyze a few happening in the Nigerian political landscape, analyzing the assertion from General Ishola Williams, who asserts that former Nigerian military leader Ibrahim Babangida strategically positioned General Sani Abacha to assume power in the lead-up to the controversial annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. This assertion invites a deeper examination of the intricate power dynamics that characterize Nigeria's transition from military rule to democracy. Also, in a significant move to bolster Nigeria's economy framework, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has officially signed into law the 2025 budget, amounting to 54.99 trillion naira. This comprehensive fiscal plan is aimed at driving sustainable development and addressing key areas such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. We'll be looking into the implication of this budget as it is anticipated to serve as a foundational tool for achieving the broader economic goals of the country in the coming years. We're not leaving out the unanimously passed vote of confidence in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu by the All Progressive Congress, reaffirming the support for his leadership and policies. The APC resolution serves as a significant affirmation of trust in President Tinubu's vision for Nigerians' future and underscores the party's resolve to work collaboratively towards achieving its strategic objective. Join us shortly on these issues in the Nigerian political landscape. I'm Olaitan Babatunde and I've got with me Odiawa Hihad. How are you doing, Odiawa?
I'm doing perfectly fine.
It's good to have you on the show again today.
Always.
All right, I'm sure you brought in your enlightenment and all of that for our viewers today.
To the best of my knowledge, being politically aware.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome back to the show, and I'm still Olaitan Babatunde, and with me is still Odiawa Hihad. All right, so let's dive straight into the discussion of the matter today because we have different places to go, so we would like to fast with it. Now, retired General Ishola Williams, he claimed that General Ibrahim Babangida prepared Sani Abacha for power before the annulment of the June 12 election, contradicting Babangida's memoir. So I would like to know, what does this review, what does it mean? What does it say about the military role in transitioning in the early 1990s?
Well, to begin with, we had an episode earlier on, if you recall, where we actually based on this 1993 election majorly as to why is he actually coming out with the truth now. Is it a case of where he's going to is closer to where he's coming from? Why? Because age probably is catching up with him. That's one. Secondly, we look at it from General Ishola's point of view. He was actually mentioned, and research gathering were making around states that he was actually chief of defense when it came to training and planning during the IBB regime. And he was actually in the caucus meeting on these transitional arrangements, and also whether or not Abacha was to take over directly from him or indirectly. Frankly speaking, we'll see what played out. He actually took over indirectly. Let it not look as if his subordinates was insubordinates. Let me put it that way. That's why he tactically put Shoneko, who was also from Abeokuta, likewise Abiola, to make it look like some deception, where he was now out of the way in Katsina, claiming that his 2IC, second in command, actually took over. It doesn't actually make sense because, furthermore, I conducted research and it was found out that IBB had Abacha as his chief of staff. And a chief of staff definitely cannot take over from his principal. It's not allowed. There are always decrees to actually address that. Peradventure, you try that, it's a case of firing squad, because firing squad during the 90s was quite pronounced. The only person actually, you won't say Abacha was actually at loggerheads with IBB. The only person who was at loggerheads with IBB was Vat Samaman, his very close tight friend, whom he personally ordered for his execution. That must have been personal differences, which actually had to get him out of the way. Now, coming to Abacha now, Ishola will actually recall, I'm still going into further details, that IBB had actually been addressing Abacha as Khalifa. And Khalifa in Arabic means successor.
Okay.
So by the time you look at this, if you are not smart to reading between the lines, you begin to hang yourselves like the average Nigerian, they're bantering and bickering about concerning was he actually telling the truth or was he
was
actually telling a lie?
Yep.
Now, going over to the actual council, the meeting was actually arranged in Mina, in his place there, and all top military generals were present. And they were talking about transition, or it was expected that transition would be talked about, when in fact they actually came there and the narrative was actually changed when they got there. So it was a case of trust and mistrust. Who was IBB actually fooling, or was he actually trying to like avoid trouble? So this book actually defined him as a leader who was trying to contain insecurities as at that time, or someone who was actually trying to run away or shy away from trouble, or someone who was actually sticking to the number 10 jersey. They call him as Maradona, dribbling Agabagebe, left, right, and center.
So I would like to know, with this statement made by Ishola, what challenge or supports the popular view of the June 12 annulment and the return to civilian rule?
What actually had supported it was because circumstance under the takeover from Shoneko was so many bloody events took place. The assassination of Kudirat Abiola, which was drastically brutal around the Keja axis. You had, of course, the elimination of MKO2, likewise. Abiola, yeah. And other top figures, and other retired uniform personnel also. So seeing all this, there is always a saying that the worst democratic dispensation is better than the best military regime, because even when you talk during the military regime, you're forced to kiss the floor and shut your trap door, because the barrel and the boot actually does the talking. Because if you don't shut your mouth, it's a case of maybe you're going to die somehow like Sarawiwa. But when you have a democratic, the essence of the emergence of democracy, that is where we now have to mention the likes of Abdul Salam, who taught it reasonably enough that actually power belongs to the people. The actual essence of the military is to protect territorial integrity, not to actually govern a particular axis. Now, if we go globally speaking, now we can look at the likes of Mussolini and Hitler. Look at how it turned out for them. Now, coming down home to Abacha, the last military head, how did it turn out for him? Whether he was actually killed by an apple, we are not quite yet sure.
Yeah, okay.
So, because there are still conspiracy theories around that. So if we look at it, military regimes are not cut out for governing people, because it's a unitary system whereby keep going, or they give you one direction which you have to follow. You have no room to like break forth and say, okay, let's try this second opinion or third opinion. But democracy gives room for that. Abdul Salami recognized all that, hence the transition.
All right. I think I would like to ask you a question. You know, talking about this military rule and democratic rule. I think, you know, I've had discussion with some people, and then they said that even if it's just for a short while, they would like the military rule to take over again because of the things going on in the country, in order to bring sanity back to the country. What do you think about these people's perspective?
Well, frankly speaking, I prefer, I'm of that school of thoughts.
Okay.
But I would say a second opinion is also better because we also need suggestions from people. The military believes in a one-way traffic. This is the way to go. Peradventure, there's a blockage here. They know how to reorganize themselves and make sure that amends are being made to work out. So the essence why people are actually advocating why we return to military rule is because people are quick to hear word. Why? Because the army are Koboko oriented.
Yes.
By the time they flog you a few strokes of the Koboko, you sit up. If they say get in line, you get in line. They don't have time to start explaining to you why you should get in line. They're giving you an order, obey before complain. So Nigeria now, as we speak now, needs a hard hand. I suspect that is why people are of the opinion that we should go back to the military rule, which of course might not be okay. Yeah. Because if they were actually seeing what was happening there, I don't think they will actually be advocating for it now.
Right now. All right. So earlier we talked about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also increasing the budget for 2025. So I would like to know, President Bola Ahmed recently assigned a 54.99 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill into law, which is 99.6 higher than the 2024 budget. Now, what impact might this significant budget increase have on Nigeria's economic stability and growth? Because right now we know that we're in debt in Nigeria. And I think I also heard that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to pay some of this debt, but now increasing the annual budget. What impact do you think it will have on our economy and growth?
First of all, when we're talking about the economy, there's no how we won't talk about inflation and so many other things which are having negative impact on the country's pulse of finances. We are not self-reliant. We produce so many things. We have so many resources. When it comes to natural resources and even human capital resources, we have them. We have people who have inborn talents, which are innate in them, but we have not utilized them. They are underutilized. So when we generate all these budgets, where are the funds actually going for? I think it's not about increments in budgets. It should be a case of slashing down cost of governance. Now, the BM and the I beg your pardon, the Chevrolet, which is bulletproof, which the president is actually making use of. It runs into billions. The Benz, which he actually uses, is the most expensive in Africa. So if you can take time to slash all that down, you looked at what it's a military regime now in Niger or Chad. You look at the Toyota he's using. It's a very simple Toyota. Pardon my language, old school. But yet still, he had to put the people first. You're actually serving the people. It's like a father now. A father needs to pay attention to his obligations in the house. The child hasn't gone to school. The dad is away drinking and smoking and womanizing. They haven't eaten at home. How sacrificial can you be? Those are pleasures. Nobody is saying for you to go and have a nice time, relax and chill is not good. But a situation whereby your child is absent from school and the mates are maybe 3 classes ahead, the child becomes redundant. And when the child becomes redundant, he can't catch up. Peer pressure begins to set in. This fellow and this fellow started school together. He's catching up with senior secondary school. He's just getting to senior secondary school. And his mates are already in a higher institution. The level of thinking will be different. So it boils down to even the center of government, the legislature, the executive. I think they need to slash down on their expenses. Also, some allowances need to be out of the way so that this budget increment is not a case of you're inflating the budget by 1.4 trillion, because from 4 point something to 5 point something, that should be 1 point something. It's a whole lot. So if you can slash down, there's no need for them to start inflating the budget. Now, coming down to the essence of inflating the budget, it has to address poverty, unemployment, and the likes. Now, if they can slash the cost of governance, funds from there can actually address these issues. To begin with, addressing power. Once you've addressed power, you'll be able to fund that man who runs a laundry shop so that he can be able to tender to people's clothing. Why? Because that fellow is too tired to wash his clothes to get to work. He needs a laundryman. That is where power comes into play. So all these things, there's always a check and balance revolving around. It's not about inflating the budget. It's about slashing the cost of governance.
Yeah, I think I also agree with you. And I think I would also like to say that most times when these people say they want to serve, they've forgotten the fact that going into a power position or holding a big position means you're serving the people. And when you're serving the people, it means that their needs come first. Now, when a minister is collecting millions of naira every month, and then someone working for the government, let's come back there, someone working for the government, going to work every day, putting their all in, making sure that things run smoothly where they're working, is collecting 70,000 naira. And then a minister is there collecting millions of naira. And then we talk about the imbalance. And when there is need to make sure that things get balanced in the country, it is still the people that get affected. It is the people that get affected because now, when they remove the subsidy, I said it then that it is the people that is getting affected, not the people in power. So I think there's this selfish interest that it has eaten so deep into the people in government that no matter what's going on in the country, they still try to, protect themselves, and they don't want to even let go of anything when it comes to making sure things work in the country, which I feel, in my own understanding, that it is selfish.
Well, our keen to that is a stereotype thing in Africa, only that it has taken a different dimension. Why? Because westernization has come to Africa.
Yeah.
Africans typically will love to dominate, no matter how short or tall that person is, no matter how fat or slim that person is. Africans love to be in charge. They love to dominate. So they don't like a situation whereby, for instance, I'm driving an Audi and this fellow is driving an Audi. We're driving the same car. I will feel inferior. I will step up to get a G-Wagon. If that fellow goes to buy a G-Wagon, I go to get a Rolls Royce. So it's a competition thing. So in case of somebody trying to control resources, and this thing has now transcended to politics, serving the pockets first instead of serving the people.
All right. So we know that during election, every candidate is always talking about working on infrastructure, working on this, working on healthcare, schools and education and all that. And now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also said that the increased budget is also for infrastructure, education and healthcare. How do you think the the increase of this budget would impact on healthcare and infrastructure in the country?
Well, coming to healthcare infrastructure and education. Let's talk about healthcare first, because if you have not taken proper care of the health of the people, you won't be able to attend that school.
Exactly. And then the infrastructure will be of no need.
The infrastructure will be of no use.
Yeah.
So I went to a particular hospital, and you had to bribe a nurse to get a wheelchair for an elderly person who couldn't move. Now that's bad. Very, very bad. It's quite demeaning. Now, if this can actually be taken care of, healthcare doesn't necessarily mean you provide the adequate drugs and equipment to be used in a hospital. How properly oriented are the staff? That's another thing. Don't tell me you went to some medical college and acquired some cheap degree, and then you come, oh, I'm a full-fledged nurse. No, how sensitized are you on the job? Don't tell me I need to give you 200 naira or 500 naira before you can secure me a wheelchair. If I don't give it to you, I'm making some kind of stylish trouble. You give me a wheelchair with maybe one chair is bad. Then maybe one high-profile citizen comes in, and then you give the fellow a wheelchair that can actually be controlled with a gear. That's preferential treatment. That's the sensitization we're talking about. So if all these are actually taken care of, that is where it will now start from. If you're not taking care of the people's health, people will be strong enough to go to school. And with the right nutrients, after being taken care of on a healthy note, they will be able to pay attention to whatever they are learning from, be it at the primary school, secondary, or even tertiary, or maybe probably even advanced degrees, and then getting a job. You need to feed to be on the job. So you'll be productive. That dictates now, brings in the infrastructure. So if you cannot think, for instance, now you have a civil engineer, he needs to construct the road. I look at some of the roads now in some other states. Typically, a company like Julius Berger, if they are handling the road, let's use the roads now, which this APC government is actually known for. If you go to any APC state now, it's road construction.
Okay.
And it's not a bad idea. It's opening up rural communities. Now, if Julius Berger is actually constructing a road or an expressway, they pay attention to traffic rules, so that in case a car is veering off from the express into the service lane, it's easy for oncoming vehicles to see. But there are some other construction companies that don't pay attention to that. They just do it anyhow, and hence the gridlock in certain areas. So all these things now come into play. Sensitization matters, orientation matters.
All right, thank you very much. I think the other time, one of the things you said we'll be talking about is the Fubara issue too. Now, the Supreme Court has barred the release of funds to River States, citing disobedience to court orders, and dismissed Governor Fubara's appeal against the legitimacy of the House of Assembly led by Speaker Martin Amaewhule. Now, how might this really impact the relationship between the executive and legislative branches in Nigeria?
On a broader note, the executive and legislature, they are both arms of government. And not forgetting, of course, the judiciary, which has not even given its own final verdict, interpreting the law. There's always a check and balance. A situation whereby these checks and balances are not adhered to, it means rule of law has actually been abused. Now, coming to the legislature houses constituent members who are actually representing constituencies. And these constituencies now are either loyal to godfathers, or loyal to their parties, or loyal to the governor, or loyal to anybody. But in this case now, Rivers State now, which has been brewing in crisis right as far back as 2023, it's gone on for 1 year now. It's a case of the constituent members within the legislature being aligned to the former governor, and a few members being aligned to the current governor, Fubara. Okay. And now Fubara now is at loggerheads with the former governor, who is filling in as the FCT minister, Wike. It's a case of, are you actually still battling for dominance or relevance within a place you have governed? You're actually meant to even play an advisory role. So politics is a case of meandering and maneuvering. So it's a case whereby a PDP member who is Wike actually serving under, that's the way I say it, serving under an APC administration, trying to win over a PDP state for the current APC administration at the center. That's the way I actually see it. And people who are there are trying to see how they can benefit from the center. Because if we look at it now, the court now has actually ordered that resources not be allocated by the CBN to the River State government. And that these are part of things they're actually fighting for. And what has actually caused this? Personal interest between two warring factions, Wike and Fubara. And people now are suffering at the long run. So many disobediences like that. And Wike on his own part, Fubara at his own part, fell for a trap by demolishing the State House of Assembly, which was actually uncalled for. Why? Because party members or within the National State House of Assembly were not aligned with him. Secondly, you don't present a budget, a state budget for the year before a few. In democracy, it's all about majority rule system of government. You went and presented it before a minority. So those are the kickbacks that actually got to him. And that is why Rivers State is still on this locking of horns issue.
Yeah, I think I also saw it on the internet that he only has 3 people in the House of Assembly, and I can only wonder how that is going to work for the meantime. But then let's talk about how this will imply on the accountability and adherence to the rule of law in Rivers State.
Well, talking about adherence and transparency of rule of law, no, everyone is wrong on this matter and everyone is right on this matter. Wrong in the aspect that the former governor ought not to meddle in the activities of the state. He is now at the federal level. If at all he has to be answerable to the state, he has to play advisory role, like I said earlier on. If the state has to have anything to do with anybody at the federal level, it should be the chief executive, and that is Tinubu. Because all this there's hierarchy everywhere. He's not answerable to the FCT minister. The state governor is answerable to the president. So you don't bring in your personal differences to begin to obstruct democracy. That's another thing. That's where his predecessor was actually wrong. Now the successor now, who is Fubara on his own part, you don't go taking laws into your hands without being politically calculative. Demolishing this State House of Assembly, where they make the laws of the state for the people to comply, including you, the leader. You have actually showcased a sense of misdemeanor that you're a law unto yourself. That's that's where you've actually abused the rule of law when it comes to checks and balances. That's what I began by saying, that everyone is wrong and everyone is right. So the more they begin to stick to established laws, when I mean established laws, I mean the constitutions, for respecting institutions, the better.
I'm not trying to insinuate anyone is wrong or right, but I just feel like if you want the people to follow the rule of law and you as the leader, you're not following the rule of law, definitely there's problem looming. Now, the All Progressive Congress has passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who assured that Nigerians' economy is on the path to recovery. As much as Nigerians are not seeing that, but then I feel like the APC members can actually see that. How does this vote of confidence reflect the APC strategic approach to governance?
Well, talking about strategic approach to governance, before any party comes into power, they will definitely have a candidate, and that candidate with his party will also have an agenda or a manifesto. And now in this case, now the party is the APC. Now for the APC now to pass his vote of confidence on Tinubu, it therefore means that he has actually been living up to expectations beyond the 100 days of office. He has been there, and the APC has given him a 100% pass mark, knowing that, okay, he's the man for the job in come 2027. Now, the next election now is coming up now, and he has already been endorsed even before 2026 will start running, or 2025 will come to an end. So it therefore means that he is coming on board unopposed to continue whatever is on ground. Because frankly speaking, I don't see anybody within the APC who is actually coming out as a prominent figure to contest the elections. I'm not saying there won't be any, but the contenders will not have the wherewithal that Tinubu actually has.
Okay, but then looking at this, I'm sure that other party members or even some of the Nigerians do not believe that is leading us to the path of recovery, if you would ask me. But then, you know, when it comes to APC and all that, I feel like they have this, there might be internal conflict, but then they don't allow it to show on the house side. So I'd like to know, what does this imply about the party's relationship with Tinubu and effort for economic recovery? Is it that the APC are just doing this in order to make sure that their party still remains in governance, or they can really see that there's economic recovery?
Well, talking about the economic recovery, it's like, I would say Nigeria has been a country like an aged or elderly person suffering from age-related ailments. Like probably an elderly man now who has prostate cancer, which is common among the males, or maybe an elderly woman who is suffering from memory loss. Most elderly women are always having that. So I would say that prostate cancer or memory loss is the economic cancer that's actually been disturbing Nigeria. So the APC now wants to instill itself in power for the next 4 years to serve as the messiah that actually build the country out from that economic quagmire.
Yeah.
And it will be very, very, and that is what the PDP is trying to avoid. That's what the Labour Party is actually trying to avoid on its own part. So it now boils down to make me mention whereby the clamor for an Igbo president is actually coming up. Why? Because of the confessions of IBB. So they are actually even luring the likes of Alex Oti and even Peter Obi to come on board the APC. And these are influential figures in the Southeast. And the Southeast has been a region which they've not actually successfully captured. They've actually captured the North very well. They've captured the Southwest, except for, I think, Oyo State and Osun State. Yeah. So, but the Southeast is kind of divided. You have APGA dominant in Anambra. You have Labour Party in Abia. Then you have some other PDP in some other states, except for APC in Imo. So the Southeast state is more or less like a liberal democratic region, whereby they call the shots in that particular area. So hence the penetration. They are trying to actually work with prominent figures like Oti and also Peter Obi. But how that's going to successfully pan out is what we don't know.
All right. I'm sure you've heard a thing or two from this episode, and I would like to thank Odiawa for joining me on the show today again. The interplay of political happenings and other factors will continue to shape the political discourse here on Viewpoint. We'll continue to provide insight and analysis as the political landscape evolves. I'm Olaitan Babatunde, and with me has been Odiawa. And once again, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms at VG Media. Thank you for watching.